Hey, everybody. Welcome to RC Air Experience. This is episode 35. Tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. We're missing my buddy John from the lighter side of RC. He may or may not pop on in a little bit, but for right now, it is me, Frsky Steve, and Jose from Frsky. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having
My
us.
pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Steve, this is your second time being on. Steve was actually one of our first guests. I know you were episode 1 or 2 of the RC Air Experience when we first started 2 years ago.
I think I came on after your wives were on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'd have to go back. You were definitely one of the first guests. So you were definitely like top 3, I believe.
Yeah, and you guys are still doing this. Fantastic.
Yeah, we've gotten some growth. We've had some pretty cool guests on recently. We had John from Two Brothers on. We had Joel Vashloff, the guy who does the 3D printed F-35s.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that episode was. We're gonna do another episode,
Yeah.
and if you guys have the opportunity to watch that episode, the dedication that he has put into that, he's 11 years in. 11 years into developing and making that is drive and dedication like unheard of. You know what I mean? Like 11 years just constantly refining and working on one like specific thing is wild. So Joel, if you're watching, thank you. That was an awesome episode. We're going to definitely have you on. That was recently, and next episode we have Fitz from Hobby View is going to be on. He's on the RC Roundtable podcast, and he's written for the AMA and stuff. He's a good dude too, so he's going to be on next after you gentlemen. So I wanted to get Steve on. Steve's a popular guy. Jose's a popular guy in his own right. All of my customers end up calling Jose at one point or another. Yeah. And Steve's popular on the Facebook groups and stuff like that. He's taken Frsky to a whole new level, and he's the Frsky guy. So what's going on with Frsky, Steve? Give us some insight, some new products, where things are headed. What's the story?
Well, all right. So the biggest new product is this one was the one that kind of caused a hullabaloo recently. This is the EX14. So,
EX14.
Yeah, so this looks like the X14. It even has the modular bay in the back. And what's interesting about it is the X14 shell, but it has a different microcontroller in there. And because of that, we have a new operating system. It's called ECOS, ECOS. Okay. And what that is a completely written operating system that came out. It was written by someone in-house, one of our engineers. And, I think Jose can attest to this as well. He got started on it. It's something that's compelling. It's good. And then if it starts to sell, then they'll finish working on it. So there's some things about it that are fantastic, but there are things missing, like, it has a spot for special functions, but there are no special functions whatsoever. And then
it's so I'll say this much is the idea behind it is it's a budget radio. Yeah, so if you don't need any of the big functions, you're going to get a radio for I don't know exactly what the price is, but Steve, is it like under 100?
Yeah, it's $88.
Yeah. Really? So the whole point of it is that you can get into a radio system for a very budget price. So no matter what, it's never going to have like the full features of it. Now, I've been playing with the radio and I've been going through it. I gave the engineers my feedback in terms of, okay, knowing that this is a budget radio, we still need this, this, and this.
Right.
So this is essentially just version 1 of the firmware. But the idea behind it is you can get into RC a lot cheaper and still have a good quality radio.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To think about this, I'm sorry, Anthony, but the way to think about this is that there's an ISRM inside of there. So it's kind of like equivalent to the QX7 from a few years back that had access, right? So it's that radio system. It has a new operating system that's simplified. So it's not horribly difficult to figure out. You can figure your way around in there. And there's a lot of the stuff that people don't usually need, except for the power users. All that's gone. This is just the basics inside there. Yet, there's still things like logical switches in there.
Yes.
Can you power it on real quick? Does that one have a battery in it?
It's going to show up on the screen, but You have to hold it down for like a few seconds for the lights to come on.
Is that a color screen like the newer radios, or is
No,
it
no, there's no color screen.
not
This is
matrix black and white screen?
monochrome screen. Here we go. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's a black and white screen. It's like an old LCD
I don't
style
think you
with
see anything.
More
yeah,
similar
and
to the QX7 and the
very similar to the QX7.
Okay. Okay.
If you know how to use a QX7, the operating functionality is about the same from what I've gathered. But so like I said, this is just version one of the firmware, or not even version one, I should say. It's like version point one.
Yeah.
And so they're taking the input. So I gave them a whole list of stuff that I want to see, adjusted and changed. And if it does, I think for what it is, I think it's going to be a good radio. Now, Steve, on your point about the audio and special functions, I have a feeling from what I gathered that it's probably not going to have audio, maybe just beeps. So it really is a budget radio.
It's a budget radio.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because
Yeah.
so he's always making fun of me, right? And actually, he makes fun of me, and I love the older Frsky stuff. Like I still have QX7s, I still have X9 lights,
Yeah, they're
and
excellent.
they still sell occasionally. I have new ones in boxes,
Yeah.
and I'll have people who buy them for they got an older Frsky drone that had whatever, an older protocol on it, or they just want it for the simulator for their kid to play with. They're just looking for a budget Frsky radio.
Correct.
And I think there's still a place for that. So this is awesome. Now,
what's cool about this radio is that you can actually, with it, you can hook it up for a buddy box, or what you can do is you can get yourself a little, what is it? There's something you can put on the back of any of the modern radios. If it's in the light bay, it is it's a trainer. The idea is it's an actual module. If it's on the back, it has a small receiver. From this, you can use this as your student radio. You can get the full range of that small receiver. So you can be 500 feet away in the parking lot and still control a plane from a student. For $88, you can get yourself a nice little student radio setup.
Yeah. Now, you're firm on that pricing, or is that, with everything going on with tariffs and everything, that might get adjusted a little bit, right? I mean,
I'm worried right now that pricing, you might see stuff starting to go up right here in over this year.
Yeah. So we're thinking it's around 80, but even if it went to 100 or over 100, slightly over 100, it's still a good budget radio. I mean, it's got the Frsky quality, which, and I'm an Frsky fan, the quality's above a bunch of the other radios.
The way I explain this is that if you got a few more dollars, you can get the X14. So the X14 is going to have ethos running in it. It's going to have a full functioning ethos. It's going to have everything working on here, all the switches, all the special functions, the port in the back for the light bay is going to work. Everything's going to work on that. And so you got yourself something that I think is a lot more compelling. Right. Not to say this is bad, but it's something for each range of the budget to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Anthony, you're a lot more knowledgeable about this part of it than I am. But in the drone market, majority of the time, you just need a basic radio because the flight controller takes care of everything.
Yeah, there isn't too many guys. It's actually really funny. So I just put together one of my old quadcopters for a guy who wanted to get into FPV. He's a good customer of mine, and I was like, look, I had a cheap pair of goggles and I had a 5-inch quadcopter, and I fly my stuff like very stripped down, and I think a bunch of the guys in FPV world do. Like I didn't even have flight modes on it. I flew specifically in manual. I don't need anything other than manual. I don't need any other. I had crash flip on it, so literally I need an arm switch and a crash flip switch, and that's pretty much it. I think a lot of the FPV, I might be wrong, but I think a lot of the FPV community is kind of like that. I started flying FPV before we had all the fancy features. Like we didn't have, I don't know. So for me, that's awesome. That's all I need for if I'm flying FPV, right?
Right.
If you get into some of the longer range stuff, they have GPS and return to home, and I don't think that's the norm, though. I think most guys who are flying like FPV freestyle, they have 1 or 2 switches, and that's the perfect radio. Yeah. It makes sense. Now it makes more sense why you had to go to a custom operating system because of that screen and the switch layout. you can't use ethos on that, right? It's not designed for that kind of radio, right? I mean, is that
It's
why?
more, yeah, it's more that, yeah, like there's like, it's like the X14 doesn't have touchscreen as well, but there's no touchscreen. It's not a color screen. All of our Ethos radios are color screen.
Right.
That's more like a basic LCD screen. So the
Right.
whole idea behind it is somebody that's looking at getting into the hobby without spending too much money, and still have something that's quality and not too stripped down. Some of the other manufacturers, I think, they sort of strip down their budget radios so to the point that you can't use it with another plane.
Right.
And that's the problem, in my opinion. It's like, okay, well, to me, if I look at that, you can look at the entire price, thing and say, okay, it's cheaper, but if I have to now buy another radio when I go to another plane, where's your
Right.
savings?
Right.
So
No, it's a cool concept.
the thing about it too is this: you can actually, if you think about it, someone gets into a hobby, they can take up the flying hobby, and they want to buy a cheap little plane like an Aero Scout and a radio. So you put this together for them, right? As far as a nice little simple setup, you don't know if they're going to still be in the hobby in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And then the idea is, like, in 6 months from now, you might be on your 33rd plane. This only holds 32 planes as far as model memory. When you get to that point, we can start talking about, hey, maybe it's time for you to get a better transmitter. But when you get that, you don't need to update all your receivers. You don't have to tear everything out. You can keep building with it.
It's a similar thought process that I have a lot of older customers who want to get into FPV, and it's a similar thought process. It's why I carry the cheaper Emax goggles. I carry both lines of the cheaper Emax goggles. I carry some of the analog stuff, right? Because I'm like, look, if you just want to try it out and you're not 1,000% committed that you're going to be doing this, then buy yourself the $50 or $100 goggles, buy yourself the analog setup, put it on a plane or two, try it, and then down the road you could always sell the cheaper stuff and upgrade. It's you'll lose more money if you went high end and realize this isn't for you. So I always tell people the same thing: like, start out slow and small, and you could always upgrade. It's kind of harder to downgrade. Jose, before we get into this a little bit more, I should have did this in the beginning. For those of you that don't know Jose, he is the Frsky tech guru, I would say. I mean, is that a good label for you? Like,
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He's the guy that I send people to when I have an issue that I can't figure out. I go, you got to call Jose. So he's the man when it comes to that stuff. So he's got a really good technical background on the Frsky stuff. He's the support guy, the support god. Bow down. He does a great job. He does. Every time I talk to somebody, I called Jose. He straightened me out. I'm like, I knew he would. That's what happens. So one more question about the EX14. Somebody's going to try it, right? Would it run Ethos if somebody tried to put Ethos on it?
And I don't think so. I think it's its own special small microcontroller.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like the getting the diamond ring out of the Cracker Jack box kind of operating system, microcontroller. It's designed to be something economical, but still works with everything. What I like about it is the microcontroller does what it needs to do.
Right.
But the big thing is that the ISRM, having that, being able to hook up to all of the modern day Frsky receivers. We're talking, you can even hook it up to the Archer Plus SR12. So you can have a stabilized receiver. I don't know what runs stabilization per se.
That's what I was going to ask you. What protocol? It runs all the protocols?
It runs everything that's 2.4 gigahertz FSK. So it runs Archer Plus and it runs ACCST D16, but it has to be version 2 ACCST.
Okay, so it'll do all the Archer plus the older receivers. They just
So if you have a drawer full of X8Rs, somehow there's just like gazillions of those X8Rs floating around in the universe.
Yeah, I still sell them new, by the way. People still buy them. So
yeah, they're great.
Yes.
So if you have a drawer full of them, you can get yourself this radio. You can go fly it.
That's awesome.
The receivers to ACCST version 2.
And it doesn't have a module bay in the back, or it does?
It does, but it doesn't work right now. We don't know if it's going to work at all in the future.
So eventually, if somebody wanted to throw a TW module on the back of it, it's a possibility in the future.
That's the idea. Yeah, that's the truth right now. I have not. I asked that if when I was setting my list to headquarters, I asked that and I didn't get a response on that one. So it sounds like that they're thinking about making it a functional thing, but not quite yet. but I haven't heard anything from them yet.
Because at that point, I mean, that's a kick-ass little radio. That at that point.
Then it becomes awesome.
Yeah,
Then it becomes really awesome.
I mean,
yeah,
you do have to figure. I mean, it almost makes sense, but it doesn't, because once you add that $65 module to the back of it, then you are getting to the X14 range in price, almost the stripped down one, not the S. So it's but if you have that radio already,
correct.
a year down the road, it opens you up to the new receivers. Yeah, it could be a good idea. Yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome little radio. Now the X14 is going to have updates, right? That's coming out with the touchscreen.
Oh yeah, that's going to be the big one for the year. That one is going to be called the X14RS. So it's kind of similar to the X20RS and the X18RS. That means it's going to work with all 3 different protocols. So it works with Archer, it works with Tandem, and it works with Twin.
Nice.
So, yeah, all in all, it's going to be something where, if you think about it, it's the best of all possible worlds. Now, the one thing I will tell you about it, because it's the same setup as this, it does not have as many of the switches.
Right.
So you have a limited, typically you have the 4 in the front, right? But there's missing some in the back right here. So if you're a guy who needs as many switches as possible, it's still not going to be the right radio for you.
Right.
But at the same time, this was the radio that I asked for originally. When we were talking about the X14, I said, how much would it be to put the touchscreen on there? Well, that's going to be more money. And then what about coming with the battery in the case? Well, that's going to be even more money. And so,
that's always been my gripe with the X14. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know it's been a gripe of yours.
It drives me crazy, the no touchscreen on the X14.
Because
I tell you, radio.
So this is something I harp on all the time. Is touchscreen is great when I don't know the radio.
Right.
When you know the radio and you can go through the items, besides the fact that the keyboard is nice, for touchscreen, besides that, I am so much quicker doing stuff with the buttons than you ever can be with just the, with the touchscreen. Yeah. And I harp on people all the time. It's like, hey, if you're going to do programming, start learning how to navigate with the buttons. And once you do, like, the great thing is you have the option. So, if you don't know how to do something, you can go and just touch it. But once you understand how the radio works, you can be so much quicker just by using, just the regular buttons.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's my biggest issue is I'm so used to the X20RS and the X18s and then the regular X20 doing the touchscreen on those, right? That when I go to work on an X14, I'm like a monkey with a football. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It drives me crazy because I even try to touch the screen.
I do all the time too. Yeah.
Forget it. Doesn't have a touchscreen. I can't do it. Yeah. It is a great little radio. The X14. It does have a purpose. It's just it's not my particular favorite radio. Yeah. I always bounce back and forth. I think the X18RS has become my favorite radio because it just feels good in the hands.
Yes. Agreed.
So that's what I've been flying with for this year. Before that, I was flying with the X20. And I think I like the X18RS better. It's just got a nice feel to it. It's got the ergonomics on it are nice.
So before I started at Frsky, at the field, there was a bunch of guys that were looking at my radio because back then I was flying Frsky. And I actually told them, because I was running a 20 back then. And I would tell them, I go to the hobby shop and put the 18 and the 20 both in your hand.
Yep.
Right. And I pretty much, like, I think all of them, I think there was like 5, 6 of those guys, and they all bought the 18.
Yep.
Because number one, they were budget shopping. They didn't want to spend too much. But once they put it in their hand, it's like, it's got a really good hand feel, like the way that radio is set up. It really does.
It's got a nice, not to say that the X20, because I flew with the X20 for a while.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's uncomfortable. It's just the X18 just feels softer in the hands. Like I don't know if it's because it's got that more rounded body. It just feels right. And I have smaller hands. So there's some guys who have, like, for me personally, the X20RS is kind of big and bulky for me. I'm not, but I have smaller hands. A guy with bigger hands, the X18 is like a toy to them. Like, they need that bigger body. So
So the X18 is supposed to be the X9D.
Right.
It's the upgraded version of that, and the X20 is supposed to be the X10.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that makes sense now.
Yeah.
So you also you posted a picture teasing not too long ago, Steve, and there was an elf holding a radio in the background on your Facebook post, and it was a surface radio. So we're gonna have to talk. I've been driving you crazy about that for the longest time.
Yeah.
I'm
I
seeing
figured
the car guy.
before we get into that, I really did want to take a moment to talk about Jose, how he came to the company and everything else, if you don't mind, Jose.
Oh yeah, no, we could do that.
Yeah, because people are kind of curious about this. It's just kind of, I mean, I got a phone call one day from somebody on Facebook messaged me, and he was asking about getting a Tandem XE, and I'm like, so we had a conversation. I'm like, this is like the last radio I think you should fly with, because it's big, the layout. It's just really, it's a radio. It's for people that use construction equipment and things like that.
Right.
But it does come with a strap, so you can wear it and you can fly with it. But I explained it to Jose, and then he came in to pick it up. It's like the rainiest day of the year. Like we were practically closed down, but he came and picked it up, and just really solid guy, and very knowledgeable. And then one day, because he has this YouTube channel, All RC, and what happened was he there's one.
That.
Yeah, All RC. It's Jose. And there was one guy who had a free wing plane and he needed thrust reversing figured out on the free wing plane. And he came over, and Ben and I were at this glider event, and we spent about an hour with the guy. We could not figure out how to do it. So I messaged the guy back a couple weeks later, like, hey, I think I have an idea for you. And he goes, oh, I've already got it figured out. This guy from All RC figured it out. I'm like,
oh, I remember that guy. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then the other thing that happened was, Banana Hobby has a couple of team pilots, and they were going back and forth. They had this one plane. It was the B1. And yeah, there you go. So they had the B1, and they're all trying to figure out how they can get the B1 to fly, and with their radio systems, and they're going back and forth. And I knew our radio system could do it. So originally I contacted Jose, hey, can you help me make a model file for the B1? And turns out they actually had another team pilot who had the whole thing figured out. So he just did it for everybody. But it started the conversation. Now, Jose his expertise is kind of like literally networks will call them up, big networks, ones you've heard of before. And they're like, we're going to set up this place out in the middle of the desert, and we're going to do a live broadcast. We're going to have 20 cameras, and we need to have a control room set up. We need it set up, within a few weeks, because we're going to go live. Jose is the guy that they called to make that happen in Hollywood.
Nice. Right. So that's what you did before? You did like networking stuff?
I did. I directed TV shows and technical directed TV shows. I did a lot of high end, like Oscars, Emmys, like that kind of stuff. And I also did I did a lot of esports, so like Blizzard and Riot Games, cool. Productions. Yeah. So I did a lot of that stuff. So I directed and I technical directed a lot of that stuff. I just one day got a bug up my ass and said I'm done.
So technical director, you're the guy who's like setting up like the set and like the.
The technical director is a guy that I do live multicam productions.
Okay.
And so the technical director is a guy that sits next to the director. The director says, "Ready, camera one, take one." I'm the one that does it on a board, and the board has all the effects, all the inserts, like the graphics and everything else.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a good career, but I just sort of had a midlife crisis and said, I'm done. I just want to do something. I just want to have fun.
I'm sure it's demanding, right? It's got to be demanding as hell, right? You're probably not home a lot. You're probably
it's very stressful. Right. When I was doing the esports stuff, I was traveling around the world.
Right.
And so just to be home, that stuff is like that right by itself is like a gem in my opinion.
Yeah.
I after doing a lot of traveling, I realized traveling is great if you're there for fun, but if you're there for work, it's not fun at all.
No, it's not. I traveled a lot for a couple of my old jobs, and you're right. Yeah. Like in the beginning, you're like, all right, this is cool. I get to see this place, and but by the time you do it for 6 months to a year or longer, you're like, I just want to go to the hotel and go to sleep.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm done. Like, I don't really want to have any fun. I saw
Yeah.
everything I need to say. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
So for me, it's like, okay, what happened was I was in the RC hobby before, like from 2000 to maybe 2009.
Okay.
Just flying planes and just having fun. And when COVID hit, I sort of needed a COVID hobby, and I decided to just do the RC airplanes. And that's when I got back into it. Then I got back into it really, really strong, like a lot more than I did back in the day.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd liked it as much. So when I sort of had my like little crisis there, I just said, you know what, I want to do this for a living. I know I'm not going to make anywhere near the money that I used to make,
Right.
but I'm doing something that's fun.
Right.
And like, I honestly didn't think that um, having people call, like, part of my job is to help people that, and I made that part of my job. Like,
Right.
when I took the job, they said, oh yeah, you can help with the phones and stuff. And I just started giving my personal number to people, like, because to me, when you get a company like Frsky that is trying to make a name for itself and trying to get in with the big players that are out there, the one thing that you have above everybody else is customer service.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that you can do that'll set you apart from everybody else. Because I mean, if you look at Spectrum, when Spectrum first came around, I'm sure that their customer service was excellent. And
Right.
then now it gets to the point where it's like a call center, and then you got to, like, you can't really
It's
get somebody,
yeah.
But that's what happens when you're a big company.
I and yeah, and you're preaching to the choir, because that's one of the things that we always say that we do. Me and my wife is we offer customer service that's better than everybody else's, and that's one of the things I've always said. Like, if we ever ended up growing to a point, like, that's one thing I'll never lose, is the ability to have somebody call and have somebody answer the phone right away.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I've had to call Spectrum or Horizon myself for support, and you're like on hold for a good 40-45 minutes.
Exactly.
Or you got to email, and you got to wait days for somebody to respond,
Yeah.
and then you respond, and then you got to wait days for a response again. It's not like quick and one time, And that's the one thing I will say about Frsky. Even as a dealer, I'll just call the regular Frsky number, and somebody always answers the phone.
Yeah.
So and that's a good thing.
It's very
a lot of people aren't
difficult.
doing.
If you start getting, like, if my phone blows up and I start getting hundreds and hundreds of calls, then you got to go to that sort of thing. But the one thing
Right.
that we can offer until we get to that point
Right.
is actual customer service. And
Yeah.
and that's the thing, is like, when you get a radio system like ours, like, a lot of people complain and they say that our system is very complex. And I beg to differ. I don't think our system is complex. I think our system is different. When you
Yes.
have something that's different from what you're used to, it's hard. If Chinese is very hard language to learn unless you speak Chinese.
Right.
So I
It's
mean,
funny.
yeah,
You're touching on a good point, because I get this question a lot from new people coming over from Spectrum. Especially, I have the Spectrum trade-in program, so
mhm,
I get a lot of people coming from Spectrum, and that's like the first question they ask is, "Hey, my friend said this is harder than
yeah,
Spectrum, or it's different, and how hard is it really to program?" And what I like to tell people is, it's Apple versus Android, like the two
it's a,
user systems, right?
yeah, it's a
Like,
different way of doing it.
right.
That's
So,
the
like,
thing. Yeah,
Apple is very kind of like straightforward, right?
yeah,
But you don't have the same customization options that you do with Android, right?
yeah.
And that's kind of like the difference, is they both will get you to the same spot. It's just how you get there. And
When,
Spectrum kind of like dumbs it down and makes it like super duper, like one click kind of easy. FreeSky's not that much harder, but at the same point, you get to customize it more yourself, and put it where you want to put it, kind
yeah,
of. You know what
there's
I
a
mean?
lot to it. Like in like my personal opinion, and like when a company is doing great, like, uh, I'll tell people, like, if they buy a radio and they have the stuff and they have a piece of gear, and I'm like, do you know how to use it? Like, this other thing, like, like maybe some sort of attachment that goes to something else, and they say, I go, do you know how to use it? Yeah, then use that. If you know it, there's no problem intermixing. Like, there's
Right.
no problem intermixing gear. But if you want to learn something else, yeah, you can use our product. Like, I don't necessarily just say, oh, you got to use everything ours. I don't
Right.
believe in that.
Right.
Like, so, like, for example, one thing is, right now we are possibly looking at getting like a different gyro system, like a whole different system on how to do gyros. And I've been working with the engineers, and I've also honestly been testing the competitors' gyro systems, the high-end gyro systems. I've been testing them and going, look, you got to get this kind of configuration, you got to get this kind of stuff to do it. But the thing that it is like, you know, like the way that we do our stuff is exact. What you said earlier was exactly right. We have flexibility. We have, you know, we have the option of doing it 25 different ways.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I do want to see a little bit more standardization that we can sort of like make for somebody that doesn't want to go and learn the minutia, that they can get going. And that's more the part of the job that I really, really like about working here is the fact that I have a say in terms of how the operating system is going to function in the future.
So the gyro conversation is another conversation to have. And I got to tell you, if we're going to have to tell everybody they have to learn a whole new gyro system, that's going to be fun.
No, I don't think so. It's going to be so much simpler that it's not even a question.
But I do tell people, and I do have customers who are want the easy AS3X type of system.
Yeah.
But I also have people who, and that's the benefit of the system, is you can literally go in and literally fine tune like all of the settings in the gyro, like, and that's what I tell people, like, if you really want to dive into the weeds on this, that's the difference. Like, you could really dive into the weeds on this. And some
I have a
video.
I have a video that's going to come out. I haven't actually shot it yet, but the idea behind it is to show what the gyro can do. So even just our stock gyro, I can get, and without heading hold, because that's the one thing our stock gyros don't have is heading hold. We started with a new version of firmware on the RB units, on the RB25 and the RB35Ss. They do have heading hold on it, but on our regular gyro, we don't have heading hold. What do people want to use heading hold for? It's like stabilize a high alpha and also stabilize a hover, right? I do that right now with the plane that I have, and I've been really doing a lot of experimentation with it to see how to do it. I do that with our stock stabilized gyro. I can go up into let's say up into a hover, hold the hover, and just go into, this is the trick, a high gain, a very, very high gain on the gyro, and the stabilizer will correct. And all I'm doing is just touching my throttle to keep it in the hover.
Wow.
So, and that's
I actually had people ask you about that.
Yeah, you can do that. And then now the same thing, if you want to go, like, let's say you take your EDF and you want to go into a high alpha or a Harrier, right? Click on, now remember that you can't go into the high gyro when you're going fast, but when you're doing these maneuvers, number one, they're post stall, and number two, you're going slow.
Right.
So if you go into a high alpha, flip on to a high gain gyro setting, and then now same thing, like you hold it there, you still got to hold it up with the elevator. So you're like, you're like this, you're holding that up, and now you're essentially just turning the plane with your rudder. The ailerons are almost auto leveling. I can't say auto leveling because it really isn't, but it's to the point where I don't have to touch and correct my bank angle anymore, and it makes those modes so much easier.
Wow, that's awesome stuff.
That's the thing.
That video's coming out, you said?
Sorry, go ahead.
That video's coming out, you said?
I still got to shoot it, so I've been planning that one because that's going to be at the field to demo it. But the idea behind it is to show people that you can do this kind of stuff with our basic gyro, and with exactly what you're talking about, which is the amount of functionality and control that you have in there. You can do a lot more than a lot of people think.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the benefits of it. What other? So Jose is the guy. So anybody who starts out that buys a stabilized receiver from me, that buys a new radio, who's never done it before, I email them the link to your Frsky stabilization setup video. That's and that's what I tell them to start. That's step one.
Yeah.
So
Jose has probably about 60 videos out since he started with Frsky.
Right.
I mean,
so
prolific.
I'll put his link for his channel as well in the podcast link. But any of
my channel's been like almost nothing because I've just been concentrating on Frsky videos.
Okay, listen, that happens. But if you're, anybody who's watched the stabilization video, that's Jose. This is the guy who's created a lot of those really informative videos. What other videos do you have coming out? You have the stabilization video that you're going to be working on. What else?
The one that is the next one that I actually shot already, I just got to edit it, is the knife edge mix video.
Okay.
So the idea behind that is a lot of people do a knife edge mix, and a lot of people do know how to do it. It's set up for their pattern planes. Any of the competition guys like to use the knife edge mix. And the problem with the knife edge mix is you gotta, demo your plane, go and test it, go into your knife edge, hold your aileron or your rudder, hold your rudder and see if the plane usually, like comes towards you or comes away from you. So you might have to give it a little bit of down or a little bit of right aileron to compensate for that knife edge. What I do is I use VARs to essentially change it so that when you hit your switch, when you hit a switch, and that switch is just for programming or for setup. And once you flip that switch, then your regular aileron and elevator term are just for that knife edge mix, for left and for right knife edge. And so you trim the plane like you normally trim the plane, except you're in knife edge mode, and then you're done. So you can set up your knife edge mode. So you do a little bit more programming on the radio, but on your flight, you don't have to go up, fly your plane, go into the knife edge mode, go, oh, I need to give it a little bit more elevator, land your plane, adjust it, go up, oh, I need a little bit more, whatever. You don't have to do that. You can get it done in one flight.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's what's great about our radios. You can do that kind of stuff.
Between you and Steve, I get a lot of questions on the multi-module, the Spectrum stuff, and using AS3X with the multi-module. I've never really dove through to see if you guys have any videos on that stuff, but do you have any videos with the multi-module?
I did a video in there on the IRX4, which is our multi-module, and how to do like the basic setup of it.
Jose,
so how to install the Lewis script and get it running.
Right.
But besides that, I mean, I think if you're coming from Spectrum and you have a bunch of Spectrum planes, the actual setup, except for the fact that a lot of bind and fly planes, like they do their auto setup thing, which is kind of weird to me, but they do that auto setup thing. But in terms of how to set it up, it works just like your manual. So the manual tells you, like if you want to set your mode switch, have that channel active in your radio, and then flip the switch like 10 times, and then it does it. It works exactly the same way. Gotcha. So once you get into, once you have it set up, so with our system, the multi-module, you got to buy it, plug it into the back of your radio. Once you have it plugged in, you got to install a Lewis script to make that work. Yeah. But after you install that Lewis script, it works.
I pre-install them when I sell the radios now. I pre-install the Lewis script and the stabilization script. So now what I've been doing is I don't think I have to do receivers anymore, but I was updating receivers to the latest firmware for a while, just because I was having problems with a radio being on one firmware and then a receiver being on another. So I was updating the receivers, but also now I check every radio that I sell and I make sure it's got the right firmware on it, and then I also make sure it's got the Lewis script for the multi-module as well as the stabilization script on it, just so they have it.
Since we're on updates, the one thing that I do want to say is last year around this time, we introduced, the RF or the radio firmware 1.6 on the radio and the receiver firmware at 3.0.
Yep.
And before 3.0, the receivers were 1 something. All of a sudden, they jumped to 3. And the main reason why they did that was to really differentiate the fact that this is completely different. The one thing is that requires, so once you're on 3.0, it requires 3.0. But let's just say that you've upgraded it already previously. I get this question a lot, where they say, well, do I have to, if I have a stabilized receiver and I'm on 3.0 and I want to update to 3.03, do I have to go through and redo all the calibrations again, which is what you had to do when you went to 3.0 from 1 point something. So the one thing I have to say is once you're on the 3s, you don't have to.
Oh,
so awesome. That's the thing. It's like that was the big jump from 1 to 3. You had to do all those, you have to recalibrate, do your 6-axis again and do all that stuff. But now that once you're on 3, that's it. So you don't have to do the whole reset thing and go through the thing and redo all those settings. And I think that's a big one that a lot of people have been asking.
No, that's awesome information.
This might be a good time for some breaking news. We are going to be coming out with Ethos 1.7 in the next couple months.
I thought it was out already.
No, the Ethos Suite 1.7 was out, but the radio firmware 1.7.
What's it? It's up to 1.64 now. The last time I checked,
Correct.
Right?
1.64, right?
So, Steve, thank you for the breaking news. You've been harping to me about a specific Frsky product lately, and I've been trying to get more into the sensors and stuff like that. And you've really been harping and saying, hey, you really need to start picking up this one specific product. So let's talk about those.
Uh-oh. Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, this really, I think, what separates the men from the boys as far as dealers are concerned are servos. And our servo line is really, it is fantastic. I mean, and I'm glad that I can say that. And the thing that I tell people, and I want this to become really clear, I'd like to sleep at night. I don't like to have problems. I don't want to have the phone call where someone calls me up and said, hey, I bought those servos you recommended. My plane crashed. Now I'm mad at you.
Right.
Yeah. And so essentially what's happening right now is that when it comes to servos, I mean, originally, if you were to look at the history of Frsky, when I first joined, my very first day with Frsky, I was called into a meeting and we had everyone sitting around and we're talking about servos because they weren't selling. And nobody had any ideas whatsoever about servos. They didn't know who bought them. They didn't know what they're used for, anything. And it was just really kind of like, I said, you know what? I'm going to take this big standard servo. It's a BLS servo out, and I'm going to take it out. I'm going to start giving it away to people and ask them to tell me what you think. So one guy in Texas bought a pair of them, put them in his plane, and he takes me out there and he shows me. He said, see this? I put them in. I go, yeah. He goes, watch this. He flips his flaps and the thing starts going, and it wouldn't stop. So it was looking for center. And I remember that. I came back and I talked to my manager and said, listen, I don't want to deal with this. When you guys figure out these servos are okay, I'll sell them once again. But until then, I'm done with it.
Right.
And so that was like 6 months where I basically stepped away from the entire servo line. And then it was not a problem with the hardware, it was a problem with the firmware. But what happened was they started figuring out things like best motors to use. They started figuring out how to get the very best gears, how to deal with the vendors who sell you the gears and tell them, I know you will send this other company everything you manufacture out of your site, but for Frsky, we want you to go through everything and we want you to have quality control over this, and don't send us your garbage because that ends up going to our customers. So there's been we're onto the 5th generation of servos right now.
How long ago did you start at Frsky? So how long ago did this conversation take place? So there's a time script so everybody kind of has an idea.
All right, so I started talking about servos when I was about 2 months. So this was 2022. I was probably like the 3rd quarter of 2022 when I was going around giving out servos to everybody.
So 4 years ago, basically, let's say.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then I'd say I didn't really start talking about servos once again until probably the end of 2023.
Right.
Middle to end of 2023. And
last year was a big year. You really started talking about servos.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, I think what it was somewhere in the middle of 2024, they finally figured out, okay, here's how we make servos properly. And there was a major pickup from that moment where they finally figured out this is it. 2024, I think it was around April of 2024 where they're like, we got to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, the one thing that really set it apart was that MD5301. I know you don't know model numbers.
No, I'm not big on the servo. Listen, I will say this. I've sold the small axe servos. I've sold a couple of the bigger servos.
Yeah.
And the feedback that I have gotten from the limited quantity, I've probably sold 25, 30 servos. The limited quantity that I've actually sold, the feedback's been like, wow, these are awesome.
Yeah.
So that's been the feedback that I've gotten.
So this is the MD5301. To me, this is what really I think changed everything.
Take it out of the box. You're getting glare from the screen, from the
All right.
or just let the flap down. There you go.
There we go. So this is a coreless servo, right? This is a mini servo, even though
full aluminum case.
Full aluminum case, right? 375 ounce-inch torque at 8.4 volts, and it's 0.06 as far as the speed is concerned. Right. Now, the guys that I gave him to was 3D guys, one guy in Arizona, and he said, my specialty is killing servos. So I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to tell you how I killed your servo. So give me a set of 4 of them. I'll put them on my plane. I'll invite my buddies over. And over the course of the weekend, it'll be dead. We'll tell you how we killed it, how many flights it did, everything else like that. I said, okay, great. Deal on. Gave him the servos. At the end of the weekend, he ended up with having, I think they did over 50 flights. And they said no servos ever last more than 50 flights with the big team. And they said by the end, the only thing that broke were the hinges on their control surfaces.
I want to be that guy so I could fly 50 times in a weekend. I mean, who the hell gets to do that?
They were just passing that plane back and forth to each other. They were just going one after another, hitting it hard.
What's up, Jose? You were gonna say something.
Yeah, so those servos that he's talking about, the 5301s, they're not quite standard size servos. They're a little bit smaller. And I know that is the servo that like we're selling a lot of them to turbine guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're excellent for like the 80, the 80 size turbine, those kind of planes to have like not the standards, but just a
little bit smaller turbines.
Just a little bit smaller, and they're fantastic. And I like made the investment and said, screw it, I'm going to try it because I'm not one personally to buy servos because I'm cheap. If the plane comes with them, I just use it.
Yes.
And so, like I said, you know what, I'm going to swap out, like, on one of my planes. It's just a Flex Innovations Cessna 170. And I'm going to swap them out to those servos and run it on 8.4 volts. And dear Lord, number one, they're smooth as silk. I mean, that's guaranteed. These are smooth ass servos. They're really, really smooth. And number two, the speed on them is insane in comparison to what I had in there before. Wow. And I'm running it in F-bus mode. So essentially, when you're running F-bus mode, you change all your pins that your servos are hooked up to F-bus instead of a channel. And F-bus sends all the information, and the servo says, I'm channel 1. You have to program it. You have to program the servo to do that. But once you do that, it is super cool because one of the things, I don't know, when you're setting up a plane, and you have, say, 2 elevator servos. Now you got to get them to match, and obviously you have one arm you put on one side, one arm you put on the other side, and the other one is just not quite 90 degrees. It's just a little bit off, right? And you're like, okay, then I have to go into the electronics and adjust it, right? Now, I'll give you guys a little hint. In our output, so if you're not going to use F-bus servos, on our output, there is a PWM center, and then there is the center sub-trim, okay? Why do you have 2 centers? This is why. So if you were to have, like, if you set up your plane like properly, what you want to do is you want to set the min and the max to the maximum deflection that you want. So for example, if your servo is going to hit the slot at this point, you want to set it just before that, and then the other side. PWM center does this. Here's your center over here. So like your center is right there, right? And PWM center does this. It moves it like that. If you do center sub-trim, it does this. So it keeps your range, your maximum range, and does that. So if you're going to do your initial setup, you want to use PWM center and then do your mins and max so that you're not going to hit anything at the end. But that's how you set it up. You don't want to use center sub-trim for that because you want to keep it, that you want the endpoints to still be the equal amount between the two. But if you have an F-bus servo, which is freaking fantastic when you set up, it takes a little bit long time because you got to program the servo.
Is the F-bus signal faster than the PWM signal?
No, I think it's about the same, but the big difference is now I've got programmability. I can go in there, and so when I'm setting my plane, I adjust the actual servo center. So I can go in there and I can go into the menu, and I got to do. That's one video I do have to do. Is I got to do a video on the whole F bus thing. But now I can make those servos, the left elevator and the right elevator, exactly 90 degrees, and that becomes its new center.
Very cool.
And then also in the F bus setup, or if you program the servos where you plug it in, you can change it from a 90-degree servo to a 120-degree servo, all the way up to a 180-degree servo, which is like the old school retract servos from back in the day.
Right. Now through S bus, you get telemetry back too.
That's correct. So the big thing is now you can get, like, I tell the turbine guys, the guys who spend high dollars on their planes, I say run F bus mode, and also what you want to do is you want to have a page that shows you your temperatures or your amp draw. Okay. So here's the thing. Like, for example, I was over at a jet event and there was this Viper.
So hold on. You'll get temperature data for each individual servo.
Real-time, individual servo temperature and amperage.
Back through the telemetry on your radio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instantaneous real time.
It's amazing to be alive in 2026, isn't it?
So here's the thing. Like, I had like, there was this exact same plane, a Viper 1.8. Okay. Had two guys that set it up, and they were both like considered excellent builders. Okay. And when we were there, they're going to mate in both planes there, and they had exactly the same gear. The only difference was one of them had an airspeed indicator, the other one didn't. But besides that, everything else was the same. And we had the telemetry information from the from the servos, and the total draw maximum at one time. Okay, in one plane was 4 point in a maiden flight, so you're not doing anything crazy, right? I think it was 4 or 5 amps, right? Which is pretty low. I'm like, that's pretty good for how many servos you're running in there. The next guy, he made in his plane, and he flew it around, did the same maiden to set everything up, came in and landed, and I looked, 1.8. 1.8 amps. And what is the difference? It's the setup. That is the difference between your servos lasting 20 years or your servos lasting 3 years.
Steve, so the guy who couldn't kill the servos, I'm guessing he was like, oh my God, I'm never going back to any other brand servo.
Yeah, it's Kyle. Yeah, well, he has this relationship with this other servo company, so he's kind of like, it's funny how that all works out. But yeah, he goes around and he tells everyone about it.
So that's a good question then, right? And not bashing any other companies, not putting any other companies on the spot, but just as a gauge, because people base stuff like this, right? So with the new servos, the new updated servos, right? You have, who would you consider is the highest end servo right now in the market? What company?
We actually had one guy who did all the servo testing. His big hobby is testing servos.
Right.
And he said the very best servo he's ever tested was a Futaba servo at $250 a piece.
Okay. So let's say Futaba is at the top, right? There's a couple of servos. There's KST, MST, there's all of these. Where does the Frsky line fall? Because price-wise, they're competitive, right? They're not
very competitive price-wise.
Right.
As far as the way I look at him is this. I mean, first of all,
you're a little biased, obviously, but
I look at everything, and there's a lot of things I look at, and Jose probably has his opinions on this as well. First thing is, I always wonder about the titanium servos. It's always one gear that's titanium.
Okay.
And I'm always wondering about that, because to me, what it looks like happens is that it passes on the torque all the way down to these other gears. So they end up wearing out pretty quickly. It's maybe not the titanium gear goes out, but the other gears wear out.
Okay.
And so there's the biggest problem I see right now is that you get a lot of guys who this is a special plane. This is my once in a lifetime plane for the next 2 years. And I want it to be something so good that I'm going to put in the best servos I can possibly can. I'm going to spend $150, $250 on these really high-end name brand servos. And then what happens is they end up holding that plane for about 3 or 4 years. And then they get these servos that are literally falling apart on them, especially their flap servos, and they're rebuilding them. The thing about servos is you really have to know how to rebuild a servo. Most people don't.
Yeah.
And what I look at is like, Is ours titanium gear like the top? Possibly not. But here's the deal. When your servo goes bad, instead of rebuilding it, you can replace it.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask. Do you offer rebuild kits? Who manufacturers offer rebuild kits for servos? Yes,
We
no,
looked at
right?
that. We just decided not to because people don't typically don't rebuild them properly.
Right. And then there's a whole issue with I bought the rebuild kit and then I didn't do it right, and it's your fault. So I
Right.
can tell
Yeah.
you
And
that.
then they crash the plane and they, but I mean,
Right.
I've literally go to flying events and I've seen people take off and I can explain the mindset really well. There's a guy who's taking his plane. He had problems the last time he was at the event. He forgot about the problems. He comes to the next event. So he's hauled his plane across 3 states to come over to his flying event. And he's there to fly. And then he realizes, oh crap, my servo is having a problem. I'm just going to fly it anyways, right? And you don't think about that. And then we stand around and we watch a nice $15,000 turbine jet take off, do a bank, and end up crashing because you can see, like from the takeoff, he had a problem with his elevator or something like that. And that happens quite often. So the idea would be, yeah.
You've actually seen that in like YouTube videos where like the guy's having issues with like a radio signal or something, and then like they're still like, yeah, I'm going to take off and fly it. And
Yeah.
it's like a huge surprise when it crashes. Like afterwards, it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have taken off. Like,
yeah. Well, the thinking is, I'm here. I spent a lot of money to be here.
yeah.
What's another $15,000 when the time is all said and done?
Way more than I have. I can tell you that. That's why I don't fly turbines. I couldn't do it. I would cry.
Yeah. So the way that we test servo, the thing that people will do is always about specs. And I think every servo company has their own specs. They have their own selling points and things like that.
Right.
What I do is when we test servos, I get them out to like 5 different people I trust, but have different strengths as far as being pilots. And I want their feedback. And the thing I always do is I give a servo out to people or have them test it. I don't tell them a thing about the servo other than here's the specs on it. Should be a pretty good servo. Try it out.
Yeah.
And then I wait to hear back from them what the feedback is.
I've heard a lot of good feedback. And then we've talked, and I think that I will probably get a little bit more into the weeds on the servos. The reason I've stayed away from them is because I'm like you. I want to be able to go to sleep at night, and I want to know the specs and stuff. So like, I'm not overly like if somebody asks me, hey, what torque does this? I don't know all the specs on the servos. I haven't familiarized myself. So before I can really do that, I need to learn the product line a little bit more because I like being able to support. Jose, I only send people to you when I can't solve the problem myself.
Mhm.
I was just talking to Steve earlier. I'm actually repairing an X20S right now. I have this thing down to like the case. Like I finally figured out that it's the power button switch itself, the board for the power button switch is what's bad. And I mean, it's down to like a couple of screws at this point. So I want to be able to help people and give them the right information when they're buying their stuff. So that's why I haven't done the servos. That's probably where I will be next. So that's awesome. Check out the servo line, and then we have the Surface Radio that's coming out. When are we finally going to see the Surface Radio that is supposed to knock out the Frsky Noble because that's the king right now?
Well, we were talking about it just the other day, and we're like, it doesn't have an FCC regulation certification yet on that.
So we're never going to see that radio then. That's it.
Well, I'm like, it's not a UAV, so it's probably not going to be under those regulations. So I don't think we're going to have a problem with it. I
didn't want to get into that whole FCC thing, but the verbiage in front of it is just so vague that it's like they opened the door and left it open and gray for a reason. Like it's so also it's weird. Like there's certain things like I've been beating my head against this whole thing. I personally think it's a problem for the whole hobby. I'm kind of doom and gloom when it comes to that, but certain like 2.4 bands, because they're such a popular band, don't require FCC certification. Like there's
they do
really dive through like some of the weeds on it. So it's like I hope that you're able to get that radio in because I think the Noble is a nice radio.
Right.
But I think that a nice higher end Frsky radio would be awesome. I think for the service guys, it would be really, really cool.
So I'm about 85 to 90% positive we're going to have that radio come out. It's going to probably come out towards the end of this quarter, so probably closer to the end of March. You'll start to really hear about it and see about it. And it's, we're looking at it. It's kind of like everything else we do. Here's a new product. We've not been in the surface market at all. So what we do have is we have a number of people flying with our transmitters. It's going to have ethos on it. So this operating system is amazing. It's going to be the most comprehensive operating system for a car radio in the market.
The big dog, and now receivers, are you guys specifically coming out with a car receiver, or are you going to use you're going to come out with
car receivers? They're going to be waterproof. We're going to have servos. They're going to be waterproof. And
so the big dog in the car and surface market is Frsky. They are all those cheaper, binding, ready to run cars. Most of them come with Frsky radios. It's Frsky is kind of
and I'm not familiar with it, but can I ask why? Is it just because it's cheap, or because it's good range, or what?
So the Noble, and I'll pull up the Noble, and listen, I don't hate the Noble. Just my background, just so everybody knows, I started out on Frsky before I went to Frsky, and I actually still fly Frsky.
I got a Frsky radio too. Yeah, I fly.
I still fly my I still fly my Turnigy Evolution.
Oh yeah.
I still have a ton of I still have a ton of Frsky receivers. I don't mind it, but it's the same boat. They're in the same boat as Spectrum and everybody else. They're still relying on that single 2.4 non redundant band. You know what I mean? So range is still not something that remove. Hold on a second.
We're back again.
Yeah. Range is not something that you're really going to get. You know what I mean? But for the surface stuff, Jose, to your point, I think it's cost effective. Absolutely. But they do make a decent surface radio. So it's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is too. This is a Frsky radio, and it came with a ready to run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The question is the reason why I bring that up.
It's got all the buttons and everything.
Yeah. But the reason why I bring that up, it's like, okay, well, what are people looking for in the surface market? And while we're in the process of developing, we can bring our input in, and now's the time, So if there is,
the surface market is it's a lot more. I feel like it's a lot more nuanced than the plane market or the air market. But I have the Noble on the screen real quick. So the cool features of the Noble is it's got the nice touchscreen, right? Also, one of the really cool features is it has a bunch of channels, right? Most surface radios are usually only 3 or 4 channels. They don't have a ton of channels. But this wheel right here will rotate all the way to the other side of the radio.
Yeah.
Left and right? Yes.
So you just flip the little button and this will rotate all the way around. So you can grab it from either side, which is pretty cool. It's from what I've seen of the Noble, it's a quality radio. It is a nice radio. It's got a good build. Good. The weak area, I will say though, is this trigger part. This is where they seem to be breaking. The trigger.
Okay.
But for the most part, it's right now, it's the high end radio of choice for cars. Most car radios, right? So like I have a couple of cars and then also Frsky. Like this is their older radio. This is their newer radio. I have a couple of cars that I'm putting together and building. I have a car for a customer. I'm actually putting together a Tamiya. I'm putting together for a customer, and they just wanted a cheap radio. So for $50, I got a radio with a receiver.
I think like the guys that want like something like, I think the guys that are looking for top speed run, they're looking for more range than what 2.4 really can do.
Right.
The guys that also in the same vein, they also want low latency.
Right.
That's like I meddled with cars a little bit, but I'm more of a plane guy than anything else.
Right.
And the requirements aren't that like massive. So you don't need like a whole bunch of logical switches and a whole bunch of, like flight modes and that, drive modes, I guess they would call it,
Right.
in that. You don't need that. But what you do need is good build quality, which I assume that's the one thing that we're going to be like really strong on.
Right.
The second thing is latency, and the third thing is for some people range. Now, to say that we're not in the surface market is a little bit unfair because a lot of people use our radio already for like the crazy scale trucks, the things that require lots of channels, the
Robotics
droids.
as well.
Yeah, robotics, the
Robotics,
droids, big
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so like
that's
we
true.
do, yeah, we do have it because they're essentially using what we already have, which is our regular radios. Like the radio that I got when I had an X20, then I went to an XE, and a lot of people say that's more of a like a Surface whatever radio, but the Europeans love Terray radios, and I love the Terray radio for the fact that I could just rest my hand there. But that radio is actually perfect for anybody that wants any of the crazy stuff where you need a lot of button switches and you're going to do a lot of building and a lot of stuff. So it just depends, and that's the thing. It's like this radio, the Noble versus ours versus our radio. I think it's probably going to come down to quality and features.
Yeah. That's
Not
what's going to be compared.
Yeah,
It will be compared to the Noble. If you're in that price range, which Noble's an expensive radio, it's not a cheap radio.
Yeah.
That it will end up getting compared to that.
About $300, right?
No, it's more than that. Hold on.
Yeah. So as long as we can get the same kind of feature set,
Yeah,
that
like
they have along with more quality, I think we can do well.
330. Now behind the Noble, I would say the next runner-up would be the MT12, the Radio Master. That would probably be the next runner-up. And obviously, you have Sanyo makes an expensive surface radio.
Yeah,
a couple of other brands.
Sanwa,
they make.
I heard really good things about the Dumbo RC.
So that's like a Fly Sky type deal, right?
Yeah.
They make a good cheap radio. So for instance, the reason I have that Radio Master is I'm actually building a custom boat for somebody. I'm building a replica of a boat that his father actually raced the real size ones, and they did toy boats RC boats when they were younger. And this boat's getting completely converted from gas back in the 90s to a full electric setup, and he wants to get some distance on it. And I'm like, all right, well, surface radio distance right now, Frsky doesn't have an offering, and he didn't want to spend $300 on a Noble. The MT12 comes with ELRS.
Yeah,
channels are going to be important too, because like some car guys are starting to get more into channels. So like the crawler guys, right? Some of them have switches where they can go up into a different gear. Like they have their very low gear, and then they can switch it into a higher gear for when they're
rear steer on and off.
Right. But then you have the custom guys who have all kinds of features on their cars. They have lights and
exactly winches,
right? So channels are important because that's where the cheaper Fly Sky stuff kind of stops. Is most of that stuff's only 3 channels, right?
Yeah.
And most cars you don't need that, but you need. I don't know how many channels. What's it come with? 8 channels?
I'm not sure.
16. Yeah,
is it 6?
For the surface radio, it's going to be D16, right? So it'll do up to 16 channels. But how many channels?
How many physical channels switches?
Well, how many channels output are you talking about?
On the receiver.
How many PWM ports are going to be on the receivers?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Well, yeah. Well, how many switches or buttons? Like
you're gonna. There's a photo of it. It's not going to be overlaid. That's probably similar to what you would have with the Radio Master radio. There's enough there, but not too many to overload.
I figure 7. I think the Radio Master is 7 or 8. 8 on the MT12.
Right. All we've seen so far is that photo that you've seen. I saw the original plan of the radio. It was 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
I know me and you have been talking about it for quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a long time since it came out, or we've talked about it. So, yeah, essentially, the way I see that the car guys are, it's the same issue that we have in the plane market. Now, if we only needed 6 channels for everything,
So 10 channels on the Radio Master inputs, 10 physical inputs.
10 inputs.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Are they
So
just using a quote surface receiver, or are they just using the receivers for
No,
ELRS?
it's an ELRS receiver.
Just a regular ELRS
I
receiver?
believe it is. Yeah, it's in here. I haven't taken it. It's still in its wrapper. I haven't taken it out and played with it yet.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it's probably waterproof, but it's an ELRS receiver.
yeah, the guys I talk to, like, there's a lot of the guys. If you get into tanks, for example, you have to turn the turrets.
There's a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where, like, if you're really going to compete there, that's going to be, we were talking about features, right? That's going to be an important feature. Channel set is going to be an important
The
feature.
other thing I see is, like, if you see it going on in the plane market, before they used to only have like 6-channel radios, so everything had to work on the 6 channels.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden you're starting to see EDF jets that are needing 12 channels out of the box.
I had a customer the other day who had a plane that they bought. It was one of those aerofoam ones from, I think it was Banana Hobby.
Yeah, it's 12 channels.
Yeah, like he's like, it's got brakes, flat, slack. It's like, holy cow. And it just keeps, and that's, you're not adding stuff to that. Like that's just what the plane needs. And then if you want to add additional stuff to that, like, you're going to keep going.
Yeah, so I can see the same thing going on in the car market, because how expensive is it to put something inside of a car where lights turn on?
It's
switch.
not.
Yeah. So, these are the things that they're going to do, as opposed to, you can only get these cars to go so fast. A little 2S car is lightning fast. You get the 3S, it's even faster.
Right.
But I mean, realistically, what's going to happen, how they're going to sell more of these toys, is put new gadgets on there, and they're going to require channels. So
now, one of the things I do want to say is, I think there's a lot of confusion, and Steve brought it up earlier. Like, our X20 radio is essentially an X10, the new and improved X10 of our old line.
Right.
And the reason why I bring that up, and like the X18, we have an X14, all this stuff, a lot of people get confused that they think it's our channel count.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every single one of our radios are 24 channels capable.
Yep.
And the other thing that people don't realize is the receivers are 24 channel capable. They only have, so if you've got a 6-channel receiver, it's only got 6 outputs, but the receiver is capable of using 24 channels. You just don't have that. So if you, for example, on a plane that you're like, like actually not on that plane, but like say an HSD plane, the HSD 110 millimeter EDFs, or the 120s like my T33, you use S-Bus. So you've got one cable to hook up to their flight controller, and then now on that, I have a 10-channel receiver. I can use other channels. I can use whatever channel I want. So channel 16, channel 17, channel 18. I can use that for whatever I want and use those pins. And so that's the one thing. We don't sell per channel. And so it's the same thing.
Model.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as, like, again, I don't know full specifics on the Surface radio, but it's the same thing. The hardware is capable of this. The hardware is capable of this many channels.
Right.
And so in order, like, let's just say that, I mean, I really don't have an idea. I really don't know. Let's just say our first receiver is a 6-channel receiver, right? But all the software, all the stuff inside that radio can handle 24 channels, because that's our operating system.
Yeah.
So no matter what,
I'm excited. Listen, I've been excited about the damn thing for the last, even if I did at some point just have to put it in my own stuff, like, I hold on, so
let me ask you.
Been remodeling or not remodeling, because of the plane kits and everything. We've kind of been revamping our office and FPV build space, and my wife has literally come across like cars everywhere, and she's starting to get like angry. She's like, "You have so many cars; they're just everywhere. I don't know what to do with them." There's cars everywhere.
Are there remotes for every one of those cars?
Yeah. So a lot of them. So not my builds, but like So like my TTO1, TTO2s, they are on the same Frsky remote, and I just have one remote that will do those. But like I was saying, all of like you buy a crawler from Horizon or whatever, and it comes with a remote.
Yeah.
It's got its own remote. So I have probably 10 cars like that have their own remotes with them.
Isn't that interesting? Like
Yeah.
the plane market went to no transmitter included, and the car market, the majority of them are still transmitter included.
They're cheap though. So like the Spectrum remote is the popular Spectrum remote is the SLT2. That's like their budget remote that comes with everything. It comes with the Losi NASCARs, the armor cars, the crawlers. The SLT2 is there. I think you can buy a replacement SLT2 for like $30. Like the remote itself isn't expensive. And that remote's hilarious because they literally on the bottom of the remote, they have a bevel on the bottom of the remote. So when you go to stand it on a desk like this, it doesn't stand flat and it just falls over.
Wow.
Yeah. So I 3D print and sell bases for those remotes. I sell a lot of them on eBay. And it's like I can't. I probably sell 10 of those a month on eBay. Just a stupid little TPU base for a remote. It's like there's no reason other than the fact that Horizon wants to replace this remote that they would put a bevel on the bottom of it so it doesn't stand up on a table. Like who designed something like that? There's no reason. Every other car remote is flat on the bottom so it stands up.
Steve, we got to check it with our bosses. Make sure it stands up.
Make sure it stands up because that's a huge pet peeve. I wish I had one. Hold on a second. I do have one. Let me show. I really want to show you because you guys are gonna be like,
we'll talk amongst ourselves, Jose. What's going on? Did Yvonne show up today?
What's that?
Yvonne show up today? Is he in the
Yeah, he's here. He's here.
Okay, I'll say hi to him. We're just saying hi to our manager. We don't know if he showed up today or not. So, I'm stuck in the back office. We don't have any windows. It's like a prison cell in here. There's no windows. You can't see outside. So I don't know when people show up.
We're in the middle of doing the move. I don't know where the hell she put everything.
Look at all those planes back there. I see like C-130.
OV-10.
Yeah.
OV-10 looks really nice.
Yeah.
That's a full FPV OV-10.
Nice.
We're going to go to Long Island and fly all his planes. That sounds like fun at Christmas time. This Christmas, I'm gonna come out to Long Island and fly all your planes with you.
So the Bearcat, every single one of these is FPV. Cat's FPV, and then down there I have some more planes. But yeah, the OV-10, I got to get that finished, so I want to fly that. But dude, that plane rack goes that way. Like there's another 15 planes. There's another 15 planes that way.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry. So this is it. This is probably one of the most popular remotes that Spectrum sells. It's called the SLT2, right? This is my little TPU bottom here that I sell on eBay.
Yeah.
If you look at the bottom of this remote, it's got a little line on the bottom of it, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't stand up straight. It'll fall over every single time. Like it does
not
stand up straight. They literally built a little ridge into the bottom of this, and it's got a little point, and it's made so it does not stand up straight.
Yeah, it sounds intentional. It looks intentional.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just make the bottom of the remote flat?
That's hilarious.
You want people to drop their remotes, and that's what made me come up with something to print for the bottom of it that can slide over that flattens it out. Because I'm sitting here and I'm working. This is before Toledo last year. We were getting ready for the NASCAR. I was getting ready for NASCAR Losi racing, and I'm sitting there and I'm working on it and I'm doing my little tweaks so I can be competitive in the racing because it's a box stock class, and I'm not going to tell everybody what I do to tweak it. And the remote keeps falling over, and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this remote? And then finally I look at it and I'm like, there's a ridge on the bottom of the remote. Like it makes no sense. But that's
somehow intentional for whatever reason.
It makes no sense. It's crazy. I listen, Horizon. I have a love-hate relationship with Horizon.
Yeah.
In one aspect, Horizon's done a great job of coming out with stuff that gets people into the hobby.
Absolutely.
Like you can't knock that, right? They
Yeah.
made it easier for a lot of people just to get into planes that couldn't fly and now can keep a plane in the air pretty easily. And then they want their next plane, boom. All you have to do is bind up to the remote that you already like. I give them a lot of credit for that. Even with their car stuff, they really made getting into the hobby a lot easier than it was way back in the day.
Mhm.
You can't knock them for that. But at the same time, they do a lot of stuff that is not very customer nice or friendly. For instance, for years they've been charging people for channels on radios, right?
Mhm.
All of a sudden last year, lo and behold, because they're starting to get their butts kicked a little bit by other radio makers, oh, you can do an update and now your 8-channel radio is 18 or 14 or whatever it is. I'm not a Spectrum guy, right? It's like, wait, so for years, if you wanted to go from 6 to
Yeah.
10,
Yeah.
you had to spend an extra $200-$300 and toss your 6 channel aside and buy that radio. And now you're telling me that whole time it could have been done with an update?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I kind of
That's kind of
understand it.
scummy.
Yeah, I kind of understand it because, like, back in the day when I used to fly back, like early 2000s and before then, the channels were discrete and you had to have a lot of hardware for each one of those things. So
Right.
having a 6-channel radio versus an 8-channel radio,
Right.
or a 10-channel radio, that was different. And essentially, with the new technology, the new chipset, it's all one chip now.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like, they just never changed their system, like their pricing model. And I don't necessarily disagree with it, because like the tens and the whatever, they can do more, and I get it. But like, yeah, like other companies, like I think first before before like Ethos, like we had our Tyrannus, and even before then it was like other systems that just offered you whatever the maximum was. It's
Right.
just that's it, because it's like it costs us the same. So they had to change their model, but it comes from the previous generation.
That's how I got into Frsky
Yeah.
because I started out on Fly Sky, right? I started out with the Evolution. I had 2 of them. And this is when I got back into the hobby. I was kind of like you. So I was in the car hobby and then plane hobby when I was younger.
Hmm.
And then I stopped for probably, I want to say maybe 10 years.
Yeah, me too.
And then when I had kids, I was looking to get into something, that wasn't real cars, that was way cheaper, that I could afford to play with, while having kids. So I kind of got back into the hobby. When I first started getting into fixed wing, I had a friend who was flying FPV fixed wing, and he took me for a goggle ride, and I was like, "Oh, dude, fixed wing's pretty cool. Like, you're up there. It's a different world than just doing
Mhm.
freestyle."
Yeah.
When I was looking for radios, I had one friend telling me, "Oh, get a Spectrum, get a Spectrum," and I'm looking at the price of these Spectrums, and I'm like, "Holy cow! Like, these radios are not cheap." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I stumbled across the QX7, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wait, $120 something dollars, I can buy a QX7 that's
With
a
16
really
channels.
good looking
Yeah.
radio, and it's got more channels." Like,
Yeah.
True.
that, and that's what I ended up doing. I ended up getting a QX7, and then for that radio, it's wild. But even then, the L9R receiver, or the LR9 receiver, I don't
Mhm.
know, it's backwards. That was a great freaking receiver.
Yeah.
I was out flying anybody on Spectrum on that. I was getting like really good distance on that receiver back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, it was awesome on my QX7 with no anything else. Like, it was a great setup. I never had any problems with it. Never.
So, and that's the thing is like with our tandem system, which is what I recommend to anybody, unless you're flying really small or really thin fuselage stuff like a glider. I recommend a tandem because you just have that redundancy. You got the 900, and you got the 2.4, and it's essentially the older technology that we adapted to make it fit on one receiver. We got
Right.
both 2.4 and we got 900, and the 900 is being long range is just so it's so good. It's like I never like, part of the reason why when, like I was looking at doing a career change, I decided to go to Frsky was because I actually believed in the product.
Right.
I actually did. Like
Yeah.
to me, it's like once I started using it, and I started using the Ethos operating system and everything else, I started realizing the benefits on this. So the fact that you have 2.4 and you have not 900 in one receiver, your redundancy is already taken care of. Right
Yeah.
there, there's your redundancy for signal. It's just done. and you
That's
do
what I
nothing
told
else.
Steve when I
Yeah.
called Steve and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about becoming a Frsky dealer." The reason I would do Frsky is because I've been flying it, and I know the product and I like the product.
Yeah.
And I flew. I never had a problem with R9. I loved R9.
R9's great.
R9 awesome. Like I still have R9 stuff that I R9, when R9 came out, it was like, oh, R9's not great. And then some people had some issues. There was a little firmware thing where there was firmware issues back and forth with R9. And then, everybody was like, oh, Crossfire is just so much better. And I'm like, Crossfire is like twice the price of R9. Like, I'm flying R9 and I never had any issues with it ever. And I put R9 through its paces.
So before I went to, and again, this could be because I wasn't I didn't really give it much of a chance. But before I went to Frsky, I was running Radio Master, and I was running, just the regular receivers, that Radio Master sold. But I also started. I go, okay, well, I want to see what this long range thing is and how that works, and I started messing with Crossfire.
Yeah.
And the one thing with Crossfire was it has the dynamic power mode. And it's funny because the people that come from ELRS or come from Crossfire that come to our system, they're like, well, how do I adjust the power dynamically? And my answer is you don't.
Right.
Like, I don't understand the need for the dynamic power, besides the fact that okay, well, the power is a little bit low, it comes down. For me, it was just more like my personal experience. And again, maybe I wasn't doing something right, but for me, it was more of a nuisance because it would start alerting me that, oh, high power mode. And then now I'm freaking out going, how come I'm in high power mode when I'm doing line of sight flying?
Right.
Like, this is supposed to be long range. How come it's going to that mode? And so after a while, it just became more of a nuisance for me. And when I switched over to the Ethos operating system with Frsky, and I started running the tandem receivers, I would just set the power and then leave it, and it would be fine. And I would never have to worry about it again. The one thing I have to say is, like with anything that is single receiver, like say Spectrum or any of the other ones, it doesn't really matter who, that you don't have redundancy unless you put satellites or a second receiver or a third receiver or anything like that. And with our system, the second receiver is built in and the second receiver is long range.
Right.
That's the big difference.
So let me ask you a question, Jose.
Yeah.
So you and I agree, tandem is awesome. Where are you with tandem and TW? Do you like
okay. I've played with TW, but I don't use it personally. Okay. And the main reason why I don't use it is with most of my planes, I have no problem shoving that big 900 antenna in there. Gotcha. So I like with the planes that I fly, I don't have a problem with it. And why would you choose one or the other? Okay. Right. And my personal, and again, this is personal, this is the way that I think and the way that I do stuff, is I'll look at the fact that the twin system is awesome. The whole point of twin systems, you got your regular 2.4 and then you've got a long range 2.4.
Right. You got the LoRa.
Yeah. So that's great. Right. But you're still on 2.4.
Right. Right.
So for me, I like the fact that you're on 2.4 and you're on 900. So if you get interference on 2.4 that blankets 2.4, you still have your 900, which is completely on a separate system. Now, in the testing that I've done and the testing that I've seen our techs do, it is that 2.4 LoRa is super long range and super stable.
Yep.
So to the point where other people are going down on 2.4 and you're just doing line of sight flying. So nothing like, crazy long range, where, those guys, like you might have an actual problem, but like with our system, with our 2.4 and 2.4 LoRa, it's locked in. And so for me, I just like the idea of the fact that I have 2.4 and 900, the fact that this is a completely separate frequency. That's it. That's the only reason why.
What I tell people is I live in Long Island, New York. I am in a very congested 2.4 area between all the houses,
there you go,
everything.
Yeah.
So for my area, and yes, the added antenna, what I usually do is I just poke a little hole in the foam and I shoot that L antenna out the side, just glue it on the side of the plane so it's not all inside the cockpit. But what I tell people is, listen, if you're in an area like I'm in, then I would go tandem, right? Because what you just said. You have the 2.4 and you have the 900. If you live out in the sticks and you don't have a lot of that stuff by you, twin's going to get you where you need to be. It's just as solid of a link, and you're not going to, if you don't have well, the millions of houses with 2.4 Wi-Fi and everything like that, you're fine. Your Twin's going to work great for you.
The
You know,
range,
and that's why how I explain it to people.
the range on Twin though is actually it is very good. And the
Very
other
good.
that we have is the Light Bay module. It's the Twin Light Pro module,
Right.
right? So
Right.
this thing's about $70. It has an aluminum case on it. It does up to 500 milliwatts.
I sell them all the time.
Yeah, those things, the distance on those are incredible. So I have guys who have RS radio, so they have the 2.4 gigahertz LoRa built into it
Mhm.
on Twin. They still use those for gliders because you can fly. You fly these 3-meter gliders. You fly them
Right.
so far away that by the time you see them, you start to lose sight of them. You're like at least a mile away.
Yeah.
And they want to have that range. The thing about 2.4 gigahertz is that it actually holds a lot more data. When you go down to a lower frequency like 900 megahertz, it penetrates a lot better. So with lower power output, it will go further.
Right.
But when you start to increase the frequency, then you have to start increasing the power as well. So if you wanted to give an equivalent, if you're looking at 50 milliwatts for about 2.4 gigahertz LoRa and 50 milliwatts for 900 megahertz, the 900 megahertz will take you further and it will penetrate better.
You know,
And the truth is, old school 72 megahertz technically is farther than both.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is, you know, a smaller wave, it's a shorter wave, and so it can actually. But the way that they implemented the long range is new technology, and now you can get it. But the one thing I also like want to bring up for the people that really want to find out about it
Yeah.
is what is the disadvantages of 900, and Steve almost brought it up. So 900 will interfere with each other because of bandwidth. Like you get 2.4, you've got like this big wave that can store a ton of information. Okay, 900 cannot as much as 2.4.
Right.
So the big difference now, you can get all your telemetry data, you can get everything that you need on a 900, and it's perfectly fine. The big thing that you have is you can't run 100 people at the same time. If literally, technically speaking, you can go out to the field, fly with 100 people on 2.4 and not interfere with each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Can't do
when
that.
you
You can't do that.
yeah,
on
when
900.
say again,
You can't do that on 900.
No.
at 900, you're looking at maybe 6-7 people in the air before they start, you know, interfering with each other. And
Right.
that's why, in my opinion, it's an excellent backup, but
Right.
not your main. Right. And also the bandwidth is so much more. So like you can have more people fly at one time. That's the big difference with 900. Now, when people say like, you know, that they're setting up their systems and they go, okay, well, I'm just going to crank 900 up to 1,000 milliwatts.
We get
Right.
that all the time.
And like you can do that, but now you have more chance of interfering with somebody else.
Right.
So that's why, like, you know, like if you're doing line of sight flying and you're not looking at like, you know, maximum altitude, maximum range, 25 is more than fine. I know Steve won't agree with me, but I fly 100 milliwatts on all my planes and just leave it there.
Right. And the issue of raising the power output is you're going to kill the battery on the transmitter faster too. So
Yeah, I carry 2 batteries, so I don't care.
right. But it's something to pay attention to, right?
Yeah.
Like especially if you're not full pack and you're going out and you're doing a flight and you know you don't have
That's
a spare
true.
battery on you. You know, it's something.
Yeah.
It's people don't realize how much faster going up in power does kill.
So
the
there's a guy in Colombia, and he runs our system, the 900. He does FPV, and he goes long range. And what he does is he runs an external antenna. Okay, and the external antenna is on a gimbal that actually signal seeks and follows the plane. It's a high gain antenna, and it actually follows the plane. And I asked him, I go, "What is your ranges?" And he goes, on 1,000 milliwatts, 56 miles.
Holy shit!
Yeah, 56 miles. And so I asked him on 100 milliwatts, what do you get? And he goes, I can go as far as 37 miles on 100 milliwatts, and he's perfectly fine. So yeah, like no matter what, 900 is overkill for anybody that flies line of sight. But it's nice to go back up
miles here.
Yeah. What did you say? How much?
I've flown miles. I don't know how many.
Okay.
But on 100, and I'm talking like here where I'm like saturated.
Where you're
Like,
saturated. Yeah.
saturated, dude. I'm saturated here. Like, there's cell towers everywhere. There's, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people on this little island.
And the big difference is 2.4. Everybody uses 2.4. They don't realize it, but they do.
Yep.
You know, your cell phone might be on
House,
2.4.
everything.
Yeah, your garage door opener might be on 2.4. Your
Mhm.
car has a whole bunch of sensors that broadcast on 2.4. Everything uses 2.4. Not as much stuff uses 900. So usually 900 is really clear.
It's the most saturated band, 2.4.
It really is. Yeah, and only because it can handle it.
Right. Right.
Generally speaking. So I've visited a lot of fields, and I went down to San Diego. And San Diego, they have this field right by the border at Chula Vista.
Oh my
And
God.
at Chula Vista, like you've got you're pointed this direction. You're looking at your runway, and you're looking at your field, and you're flying your plane. You turn 180 degrees around, and you're looking at Mexico. Like the border is right there, and about a quarter mile away on that side, there's a border patrol station. And what they did was they populated the flying field, that area there, with ground sensors. And guess what? All those ground sensors are on 2.4. So you've got the interference coming from Mexico. You got the ground sensors from the border patrol. And if you go down there with a Spectrum plane, a plane, or actually not even just Spectrum, just anybody that's running just 2.4, they pretty much say, "Look, stay close.
What happens if you
You're gonna
crash?
get hit."
What happens if you crash over the border? Is your plane just gone?
I think your plane's gone. Yeah, they said they have. They said they have. Like,
You go down to the bazaar, you can buy it back tomorrow.
It's gone.
How much do you want to pay for it?
Yeah. So I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, depending on your environment, the guys that really adopted our system are the ones where the field is like what you're talking about, where it's really saturated with 2.4 with a lot of interference. And then those guys are like, okay, well, my planes are going down all the time. I'm tired of this. I'm going to go ahead and make the investment and learn a new operating system. And
So
do that.
the best example I use, people, and anybody who ever tested it, I'd be like, listen, I'll call the guy right now if you don't believe me. We were at Neat, and there's a dead spot at Neat by the trees. Yeah. And this guy had a Carbon Z from Horizon, brand new Carbon Z flight, came with the receiver. He just took it out of the box, wanted to fly it at Neat. He crashes it. It fail-safed in this one dead spot. So he calls up Horizon. He used to work for a hobby shop. They send him another one to Neat. They get him out another one to Neat. He takes that one out of the box. Same spot, crashes it. Done. After that,
why is he flying at the same spot?
Listen, there's a good part to this. Comes over. He's pissed because that was the third time. That was the third plane that he actually crashed, and in that similar area. Comes over, plops the radio down, trades in the radio, gets a bunch of receivers. This is where it gets scary. So he those planes are trashed. He's now waiting for Horizon to make right on the next one, but they're not sending another one there.
Yeah.
So he puts it in this nice composite Mirabachi prop plane that he has, and he puts our gear, TDSR-10, puts that in there. And I go with him to do the maiden flight after we set everything up. I go with him to do the maiden flight, and he goes right through the area that he was on 25 milliwatts. Goes right through the area, flies through it, no problem. Then now he's like in the area that three planes crashed, and he's like doing circles in it. And I'm like, all right, dude, you proved your point. Like, we're stop testing fate here.
Yeah, don't have fate there.
Yeah, but he kept doing it, and I'm like, this is the testament right here. Like, this is, you lost 3 Spectrum planes, 3 right in that same exact spot. And he flew through that spot 15, 20 times. No problem. Just kept flying through that spot. No issue whatsoever. It was a 2.4 dead spot. It wasn't a good spot.
My field is so weird. There's like one, like it's usually perfectly fine. Everyone always points to a certain area, like over here, that has a, like a dead spot. And I hardly ever notice it, like when I'm on regular planes. I don't notice it on Frsky at all. But every once in a while, there's a day where people just crash. And at first, you're like, no, it's just people crashing. And then you start realizing, no, these are holes. These are like where all of a sudden this day, for whatever reason, is saturated 2.4, right? And so people start coming down. They're like, okay, well, there's something going on. I'm not going to fly right now. And I just take up my plane and I fly it, and I don't even think about it.
Just fly through it.
Yeah, I just fly through it, and there's never an issue. Like, I could say with absolute honesty that when I switched to the Frsky, the day that I can, this is like the day that I switched over to Frsky is the day that I could no longer blame signal loss.
Right.
That's it. Like,
it's pilot error at that point.
It's pilot error. It's something else. I stalled the plane. Something else. A server went dead, but it's definitely not the radio. Like, when you get a signal loss, you get RSSI critical, or you get VFR low or VFR critical. You get those kind of warnings that tell you before it happens. So if you get that, so when I was running a Frsky access receiver that's only 2.4, and I run that, and I go up there and flying around, I hear VFR low. Well, guess what? That's a great warning to turn around, start flying back towards you. Yeah. So if there is something in the air on 2.4, and like once you get that warning, once you get low RSSI low or VFR low, start bringing it around and bring it closer to you. And if the warning goes away, continue to fly around. Avoid that area. Don't continue to fly through that freaking area.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap up. We've been on for an hour and 40 minutes. We went longer than I thought we would, but it was a great conversation. And thank you both for coming on, Jose. It's been a great time, dude. And I think I think it's awesome because a lot of people now get to see you, talk to you, put a face to the name. I'm gonna plug your regular channel as well, so maybe you're gonna have to start making some more content on there. Sorry for doing that to you. You have a list of videos now that you have to make because now this is going to come out and people are going to be like, Jose, where's that video, buddy? You said
yes, I do.
So you can thank me for adding more work. Steve, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure as usual. And yeah, Frsky's doing great stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, that's it, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank you for coming on.
All right, thanks, buddy.
All right, guys. I'll see you later.
Yeah, take care.